Alrighty. Hi everyone, it's Ion Blaze, and I'm going to apologize for this video because there's not going to be a whole lot of action. I'm more focused on giving out the information, and it's kind of difficult for me to multitask in that regard and play while being competent in my class. So I'm intending to do a class review of both the Bard class as well as the Necro class, seeing as how I've got to 50 on both here on Mangler. Max level for Classic, so let's get into it. Alright, so I'm going to talk about the three main aspects of both the Bard and the Necro, but just focusing on the Necro for this one. So, let me make sure the audio is coming through so I don't have to redo all this. Yep, it's coming through. Alright. So, let's talk about first soloing. What's it like soloing as a Necro? So, with a Necro, you have a couple different routes to solo, although to be honest, they're not. Soloing here on TLPs is subpar to grouping. You'll kill mobs a lot faster in a group, it's going to be a lot safer, and pretty much the EXP is a lot faster. It's about the same killing a single mob as killing a single mob in a group. There's such a heavy EXP bonus that, again, if you can, just group, don't solo. But sometimes you need to solo. You need to be able to kill a mob by yourself. You don't want competition. Like if you need to kill an ancient Cyclops or the J boots, or you need to kill the placeholders for a Goblin Gazuki ring in Lake of Ill Omen, even though it's not out yet. But that stuff, for example. So soloing, this is how Necros can do it. So I have a couple different spell sets actually, so I'll show the first one. This is Root Rotting. So Necros, I think you get a pretty decent root early on. I think a level 16, but it's a resurge that lasts for about 40 seconds. Then you get another root at around 36, which lasts for 48. It's just root. And then you get this one at 46 for 3 minutes. So what you can do is you can throw on a couple dots onto a mob and just basically, throw a couple dots onto a mob, land a root on a mob, and just basically sit there while you wait for it to die. There's some problems with it though. So first of all, if you're going to root, you cannot do any spell which does direct damage, or it will break the root. So life taps, that'll break the root. This my big hardest hitting dot, it does a 41 damage initially, so that would break the root. So if you're going to use one of these dots that does an initial damage hit, you have to cast it first before the root. However, this flame line, this heat line, fire line, it does not do damage up front. And I don't think the same with the engulfing darkness. No, it doesn't. The snare line, these don't do damage up front, so they won't break your root. But the problem I've experienced is the resist rate. Not necessarily the resist rate. It's not that bad. The problem I find is it breaks too damn early. Half the time it breaks. This is a 3-minute root. I've almost never had an experience where it went to full duration. It always breaks after maybe 10 to 15 seconds, and that could partially be my own fault. You know, one of the problems is as a Necro, once you get your level 44 pet, they can innately life tap, and since the life tap is a direct damage, it'll break the root. So arguably you do not want to use a pet if you're going to be root rotting as a Necro. You don't want to do that. And even then, even if you're not using your pet, it'll still be kind of spotty. Like I tried soloing the guards. I tried 5 attempts with Paralyzing Earth here on a light blue con guard and fell with, and they all failed. I tried 3 root attempts on another light blue guard in the Troll City in Grob, I believe. And first one failed. They pretty consistently, it was kind of 50-50 failure to success. And then when even it did succeed, it broke like 10 seconds later. and that was a 3-minute long route. It was just such an incredible pain in the butt. I didn't even do it. Route rotting was very unsuccessful. Although I've heard from my experience that, or not from my own experience, from what I heard, there's a higher level route called Immobilize, that has a much better resist check, so you don't have to be as concerned about it. The route won't break as much. So that's route rotting for soloing. Now let's talk about a different way of soloing, talking about fear kiting. Let me load that up. So fear kiting is essentially what you do. You throw a snare on a mob. I think this is the most mana efficient snare with the best snare slow. You get an earlier snare prior to this, I think at level 4. Let me look at it. Snare. Yeah, you get Clinging Darkness, but the problem is it's like a 20% reduction in movement speed, where Engulfing is about a 30% reduction in movement speed, so it's like 10% more. Every other snare past this point, the highest snare I have, I think it's 48, level 48, and it's only a 37% snare. And you're spending 300 mana for that. So 300 mana for 7% slower of a run speed on mobs is not worth it. I'd rather cast a little quick 60 mana snare that does just as good of a job. And I'm not using this for damage. The damage profile on these snares is really weak. So don't use it for damage. You're using it to make so the mob isn't running away at full speed. So use a snare. And if you're doing undead, this is even more efficient. So let me go to that. Undead, you can use... Where's the fear? Yeah, Spook the Dead or Panic the Dead. I think they have different level caps, but Spook the Dead, you can use it for so long. Look at this. 10 mana. 10 mana, and I think it can go up to... I can look this up right now. Let's do it. What level is Spook the Dead? Spook the Dead is level 10. And let me go to Classic. Spook the Dead can fear up to level 52. You can fear undead mobs up to level 52 for 10 mana. And it lasts for 18 seconds. That, are you kidding me? You can stand and regen that much mana back in one tick. It's, if you're going up against undead mobs and fear kiting them, this is super cheap. You basically are using about 70 mana to keep the fear kite going, and then you just throw a couple dots on them. But if you're not going up against undead, you're going against regular mobs, you have two options. You can use the regular fear, which, let me go to that, which you get at level 2, which costs 40 mana, so not too bad, but it lasts 18 seconds. This works pretty good. Or you can use the higher level fear, which it costs comparable. So it costs more mana, but it's the exact amount of mana that it would cost if fear did last 48 seconds. So the lower level fear at level 2 only lasts for 18. This one lasts for 42. But the extra bonus of this fear is that it has a better resist check. It actually will be more likely to land because of this negative magic multiplier. So essentially with fear kiting, all you do, you throw some dots out, throw some dots out, snare them, fear them, and maybe have your pet hit it, and just keep kiting them, and that's basically it. Now the next soloing strategy is life tap. What's that? You got like this weird beep. I have no idea what that was from. So, yeah, I think that beep came through if you guys heard it. What was that sound from? That was weird. Anyways, I'm gonna get back to it. So life tap tanking, yeah. This isn't the most efficient because most life taps, they only have about a 1.2 to 1.5 mana efficiency. So what that means is if you take the amount of damage that I have here, so 400 damage, and you divide that by the total amount of mana that it costs. So this life tap is a 1.61 efficiency. So you're doing about an extra half for your mana. So the thing about life tap tanking is you basically just sit there and cast life tap while the mob's beating down on you, and eventually the mob will die if you have enough mana. But you don't want to do it necessarily because it's not the most efficient. This is the most efficient way I found. This isn't no, Envenom Bolt is not the most efficient dot I have. It hits the hardest hitting dot I have, but not the most efficient. This is it, Venom of the Snake. So Venom of the Snake, if you take this, so you get every 6 seconds for 36 seconds, so that's 6 ticks total times 220 damage plus 33 equals 1,353 damage if this dot goes to full duration. And you divide that by 203 mana. So this dot has a mana efficiency of 6.7. So you're essentially getting 6.5 times return on your investment of 203 mana. Whereas this life tap here, which is the most efficient life tap you'll ever get in Classic era, is a 1.6. So you're only getting basically half, as opposed to being, this is 6 times turn. So, might as well segue into the whole point of really the most important aspect, I think, of playing the Necro class is efficiency. You want to be as absolutely efficient as you possibly can with your spells. So you want to use the most mana efficient spells you possibly can. So Venom of the Snake is a great one, but let me go to my actual normal group rotation. So lately I've been using my higher level dot. So this one, let's look at its efficiency. It is 6 ticks of 345 damage plus 41. So it's 2,111 damage divided by 409 mana, which yields about a 4.2 return on efficiency. It's about one section lower than the previous poison dot in efficiency, but still hits real hard. So this is a pretty decent dot. Ignite Blood is not as efficient, but it has a purpose. So you have 7 ticks of 125 damage, so it comes out to 875 damage total. Divide that by 218, and this is pretty much a 4 times return on your mana. So you're getting about 4 times return on your mana from the 218 mana you put in. So this is less efficient, but here's the benefit of this Ignite Blood line. This Fire Dot line has much better chance to land and not be resisted. What my experience is with this poison line is unless the mob is mallowed or tashed, or let me rephrase this. Okay, if you're fighting yellow and red cons like I was all the time in the hole, going against these the rock columns, if you don't have mallow and tash on those mobs, or one of them at least, don't even cast this. Don't even cast your poison dot because it's not gonna land. You're just gonna spend 400 mana, like 20% of my mana pool, 25%, for basically a resist. And again, the key word here is efficiency. That's very inefficient. So if you're going to fight something that's that higher level and you don't want to waste your mana, it's better to land a less efficient dot and make it land than it is to land than resist a huge dot. So with this fire dot line, it almost always lands, even on red cons. And what's nice about it is you can actually stack it. The poison dots don't stack, but you can stack the fire dots. So if you're fighting predominantly red cons, you can do Ignite Blood, you can do Boil Blood, you can do Heat Blood, you can land all three simultaneously. So yeah, you can stack these 2 dots and they will most likely not get resisted. Very rarely will they ever get resisted. And you're at least doing about 1,000 damage. About 1,000 damage for landing these 2. And the mana, you can regen this mana back pretty quick with your Lich Line. And one other thing, talking about resists while I'm here, your life tap is actually the least likely thing to get resisted. I mean, if you have a huge level discrepancy, maybe like 10 levels, yeah, you might get resisted without a Mallow or Tash, but still, this is the most likely thing to land that you have in your arsenal. So let's go on to grouping. What's it like grouping as a Necro? Let me load up my buffs. Let me show up the buffs first too, while I'm here. What buffs do I use at this level? So as a Necro, you don't really have a lot of buffs to help out other people, but you got a lot of stuff for yourself. So you got your own self-shielding line. That guy's gonna get wrecked. Art shielding. You have Dead Man Floating, which is a levitate, and it also boosts your poison resist and gives you sea invisibility. I'll talk about it again later. You have, this can be casted on other people, but it's not super worth it. Let me see how much AC it gives me. I'm at 217. 232 minus 217. 15 AC. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's worth it. You have a Banshee Aura, and you have a, this is a damage shield. I'm not sure how hard it hits for. I think it's like 15 damage. But it only lasts for 10 minutes. And it requires you have a pearl in your inventory. Most of the time in grouping it's not worth it, but if you're soloing, maybe. You have your pet line, of course, and you have Augment Death. This is a haste for your pet. Lasts for an hour too, it's pretty nice. Attack speed, armor, and strength. And the most, one spell I also have to mention too, big time, level 16. As a Necro, you should always keep this on every single one of your spell sets. It should always be up, no matter what, always. It'll save your bacon. So let me show one other thing. So this is the most important spell, arguably, that Necromancers get. This is the Lich line. So what it is, utility beneficial, it's conversions. So these are all the different ones. Basically, as you go up higher in level, these sap more health, but they give you more mana in return. So let's see. So my base mana regen is 22, and I'm getting 8 hit points per time per tick. Yeah, if I'm sitting down. Now let's cast Lich. So I'm losing 8 health per turn now, so it's sapping a lot of health, but I'm getting 42 mana. And when I have a bard in the group, I can typically go up to about 50. This is actually better than Clarity. You just have to be careful because it burns through health. So I'm turning it off here. But yeah, that's an incredible amount of mana. And that's essentially what your Lich line is. It converts your health into mana. And this is why when Kunar comes out, I'm going to swap to Ixar, because they have like a built-in hit point regen, which is tremendous. It basically allows you to resist the amount of health that you're losing tremendously. Not lose as much health per tick. I mean, losing 8 health per tick, I was going up to 10. Oof. You burn through health quick. You can die pretty easily if you go AFK. But let's get into grouping. So what can you do in groups? What do you function in groups? So Necromancers, What they can do, they can possibly pull, but they don't have so. But they can pull because they have Feign Death to some extent. It's not a 100% hit or miss with this. I mean, hit with this Feign Death. Sometimes it fails and you can die pretty bad, but you got that. What you also can do is you can kind of act as a spot crowd control. You're not as good as enchanters, but you do have a mez. That's pretty cheap. You can see 60 mana, lasts for 18 seconds, and crazily enough, it can work up to level 55. This is something you can see I complain about. Why is it that bards, which are a designated crowd control class outside of the enchanters, can only mez up to 45 here in Classic, but a Necro can do 55? It makes no sense. Necros aren't a crowd control class. Whatever. I help out enchanters all the time with their charm breaks and stuff, or if it gets out of control. This helps. Another thing you can use, again, you can use your root as crowd control. You have snares, so if a mob is running away, you can stop that. Or you could fear kite even in a group, but you have to kind of be careful because you don't want to get ads. But anyways, other things you can do in a group. Your main role in a group is DPS. So make sure that if you're in a group, you're really trying to maximize the amount of DPS you're doing. Again, mana efficiency. You want to use the most efficient dots you possibly got. Other things you can do in a group, you can dispel mobs. That's something I commonly do. This higher level dispel works. Yeah, this higher level dispel does 2 effects at one time. So I can focus on that while the enchanters and shamans or whatever are doing their job. And I think the biggest thing about Necros is you're not a burst DPS. You're not a wizard. You're not going to be able. It's very mana inefficient to do your direct damage hits. Like, let's look. This is a pretty good one I get. Ignite Bones. This is a pretty good direct damage. But look at this. So you're doing 500 damage. So 500 divided by 210. This is a 2.3 efficiency, as opposed to even like one of my worst dots is like a 4-point efficiency. I wouldn't use direct damage if you're a Necro, because it's the least efficient mana-wise way to kill a mob. That's why you really want to hold off life taps until you really need the health back, because again, this is even less efficient. The life taps are even less efficient than most of your direct damage spells. A 1.6 efficiency on this as opposed to a 2-point efficiency on this. So the problem you'll face though as a Necro is that if your group is killing too fast, you're not getting the full mana efficiency of your dots. If you're only getting 2 ticks of your dot, it's basically no better than the direct damage. Yeah, if you're only getting 1 tick of this, you're actually losing. You're lower than a 1-point efficiency. 345 damage divided by 409, you're actually doing worse. So you kind of have to land your dots early. And the problem is it can draw a lot of aggro. Let me go my Dark Elf illusion so I get better night vision. Yeah, but later. I think they get werewolf. So let's talk about the peak efficiency though. The absolute peak efficiency, the best place necromancers should group, hands down. The whole is actually not that efficient because I have to use my regular dots, but undead, necros completely excel. This is the one case where it's actually worth it to direct damage, because your dispel undead line is, look at this. Okay, so this does 468 damage for 118 mana. So this is a 4 times return on your mana efficiency. So it's just as good as that fire line dot, but it's instant. And for 118 mana to do practically 500, and you keep in mind you often Bane Strike too for like an extra 150. Necros can shred with direct damage against undead. And then I even mentioned you have a fear against undead up to 52 for 10 mana. It is insane the amount of efficiency that Necros get in fighting undead. I just nuked the crap when I was fighting in Unrest. I just nuked the hell out of mobs when I was fighting in Lower Guck on the dead side. It's incredible. And even too, to step it up one notch, Necros can also charm tremendously well undead. They can charm undead. And yeah, this looks like a big mana investment, but keep in mind, if you get this to last 10 minutes and your pet is hitting for like 150 every turn, your charm is actually more mana efficient than pretty much any dot that you have. There's no dot that does more damage and mana efficiency wise, than your charms. And you get a charm pretty early too. Yeah, I think that's what that sound was from. It was some like, sometimes that Alakazam site will pop up some crap that says your computer's hacked or whatever, and it's not true. So you get your first charm at 18. I think this works up to your 30s. Yeah, 100 mana for a pet that does pretty much all these charm pets at least hit for 2 to 3 times harder than your summon pet, and they're a lot beefier. So if you can, you want to undead charm. It's the most efficient thing. But you really need a Tash or a Mallow. You really need it because those charms will break way too damn fast. And lastly, let's talk about, there's one other thing that they can do in groups, and that's a weak heal. To be honest, it's a waste of mana and it's a waste of your life. I wouldn't do it, but I can show it. Life Flow, that's what it is. Dark Empathy, I think you get this level 6. Yeah, 30 points of your hit points out to another person for 20 mana. And then there's the other one, which is a duration tap. I've actually died accidentally using this one. Act of Shadow. You can heal group members. Transfers 80 of your own hit points for 6 seconds. Every 6 seconds for 24. So 24 divided by 6. So that's 4 ticks of 80 hit points. So you're giving 320 hit points to whoever for 10 mana. So make sure you have 320 hit points and your Lich Line's off, because if you're low in health like I was when I threw it out, I died by 1 tick. You can heal, but again, don't. It's just a waste of your mana. You're better off dotting. You're better off focusing on DPS because you'll kill the mob sooner than you can heal your tank. And lastly, let's talk about raids. I haven't raided at all yet on Ghidorah, but from my impression, the biggest thing about playing Necro raiding is, again, you're just sustained DPS. Unfortunately, a lot of these raid fights take a while. So you're getting the full efficiency out of your dots if you can land them. Most of the time, you're probably not going to be able to land your poison. But if there's a huge level discrepancy, but you could charm undead mobs. Again, you can add a little DPS there. You could, you got your direct damage against undead. You have your fire line will land, so you can throw those 2 fire dots out, and you'll get about 1,000 damage per. I think those dots last 42 seconds, so about 1,000 damage over 42 seconds if you do Boil Blood and Ignite Blood that I showed earlier. And I think the big thing on raids is just the DMF, Dead Man's Floating. Gives you Enduring Breath, so a lot of the time when people are going to catch keep, or you're going to, they'll want this casted before they go into the zone. Gives you Levitate, so if you're going against a mob like Khazak Thul or Inaruk who do Gravity Flux, they throw you up in the air. This will help you avoid getting slammed to the ground. And this also has poison resistance, so you can see some. I don't know if there's any poison casters in Classic. Maybe the bees in Main of Sky, but poison resist helps in some places. But overall, that's all I know about the Necro class so far. On the biggest points, I think I've gotten everything covered. So thank you guys all for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one where I cover the Bard.